Welcome in to the Tuesday edition of the Fun Astrology Podcast. We're talking about June 6th. Thomas Miller, thank you so much for stopping by. We have no direct aspects over our heads, and don't you wish that energy from yesterday would continue, really, from the whole weekend? I mean, we had an amazing level up on Sunday, just a great little stretch of energy here. Well, what do we have to look forward to? And then I'm going to jump into some questions. Tomorrow, equally light. The moon tomorrow morning at 4:40 in the morning Eastern Time will move into Aquarius. Of course, crossing right over Pluto as it does. And then on Friday, Venus squares the north node of the moon. We'll talk about some of the lunar aspects that are going on, but the weekend, Friday's episode, is going to be packed. There's a lot of stuff over the weekend, especially the big day, Sunday. Let me mention, too, that we have this free download for you. It's 5 astrologers who you've heard of from our group readings, etc. They unpacked the transit now of Venus through Leo. They did such a great job, and it's so wonderful to I'm not in it. It's so great to extend this into others, so we're going to start bringing some other people and personalities into this as well, and this is kind of the kickoff of that. How do you get it? funastrology.com under the freebies section. Right there for you to either watch on your phone from there or you can download it. And speaking of Venus, let's talk about this structure over our heads right now because Venus is at the party. We still have this grand trine. We have 2 squares, 2 T-squares basically, on top of each other. So 4 planets in the chart are in squares with each other. Mentioned Venus. We've got the nodes of the moon, Jupiter, and Pluto. And you could add the moon applying into that. It's at the middle of Capricorn as we're getting up and getting going in the United States this morning, but it will be moving toward Pluto. So by tomorrow, when it moves into Aquarius, there you go. That's a lot of energy. We could even stick Mars into that party by a very wide orb, like probably more than most would recognize, but it is kind of there, and it is in Leo. So we definitely have that tension that we've had all the way through the weekend, but you see how you can use that tension to get the really nice pop. Heard a lot of nice comments of people experiencing just good juice over the last several days, and I do hope you did your journal work yesterday with that midpoint over Neptune. Wow. So where we are right now is still have this double T-square, this grand cross. Pluto and Neptune are still in that sextile. They are pulling away from each other, Pluto moving backwards, Neptune moving forward. However, the next planet to go retrograde will be Neptune. That's on the 30th. So we have what we've had, just not as strong on the intuitive piece, unfortunately. That was a Friday through Monday thing. It's separating, but it still is there. And one thing we do have is the moon, at least, is moving over toward Neptune. So once it gets over there in a couple of more days, we'll have that spark as well. Now, let me try to grab a couple of listener questions. This first one was from a long-time listener, Tiffany. I appreciate you so much, Tiffany. She wanted to ask about how I do my notes. How do you stay organized, she was saying, and she was starting to use OneNote in Microsoft, whatever their program is. I am all Mac, so I'll tell you what I do. I started years ago on the program Evernote, but they kept moving more and more away from, look, I'm one little old man sitting up here on the side of a mountain. And they're talking about Teams. I don't have Teams unless there were 5 elk in the backyard the other day. That's a team, but we don't need to keep notes on that. Or the bears that hit the trash cans. So I'm just one guy. I wanted simplicity. That's one thing I've learned from Fred Dodson. Keep it simple. So I went to the free Notes program in the Mac operating system. I just converted all the Evernote stuff into there, and it's simple. So if a project is worthy of a folder, it gets a folder. So for example, I have a general astrology folder, and I just chunk stuff into there. But then the horary course that we did with Robert, for example, got its own folder while we were doing that. And it still has a transcription folder, which we are still working on. Sorry, we kind of hit a ditch on that, but we'll keep it moving. Had no idea that was going to be that much work. Now, I don't know how OneNote works, but here's the deal to me. The effectiveness of a notes program is only as good as its search abilities. I have kept copious notes of almost everything that has come out of Robert Glasscock's mouth, especially during the practicums that I was taking, and I can search all of that. Put in Saturn. If you want to know something about Saturn, there's every note that has Saturn in it. And then it's just a matter of organization as to whether do you want to organize things like where you set up the planets, the signs, the houses, aspects, or are you going to put Saturn in a lot of notes, and then when you search Saturn, you'll have quite a few. I have both. When I specifically pull something for Saturn, it goes in the Saturn note that's in the astrology folder, and you could do a subfolder, of course, of planets. But that's how I do it, and then just use the search. But it's free and it's simple. You know, for anybody studying astrology, their library, their book collection is equivalent to their knowledge of astrology. And I would add, so are your notes. I have a device also, tell you how far I've taken this. You can get it on Amazon. It's not cheap, but it is effective. You can scan books, and it will OCR the text, so you can scan so that it will be searchable. And like these old astrology books that you don't want to use too much because the bindings might not hold together, I'm thinking about the book that Robert says is the best collection of house information on the market, Mark Edmund Jones' out-of-print book on horary astrology. Think about being able to digitize all of that information and then have it searchable. And then obviously keeping it just to myself, there's no copyright violation with that. And of course, if it's on ebook or in Scribd or something like that, then get it there. But for those who aren't, like the horary book, just be able to scan it and have it. That's just an added addition to your notes collection. All right, we'll stop there for today. That was just a kind of a cool little question. Back tomorrow with more. Have a wonderful Tuesday. Back on Hump Day already tomorrow. Sending you love.